hope everybody is well and staying safe where you are. And I hope that you have maybe made your first few edits to Wikipedia or have started looking at some of the articles and content that you might want to start editing once you dip your toe in. So today I'm going to look at the tone in which we write on Wikipedia. It is an encyclopedia, so it is a particular type of writing style that for a lot of people is new. It's not like writing an essay or making an argument or being part of a debate, or even kind of writing in certain academic styles. It's quite different from. So you are very much writing in a kind of reporting factual kind of way. You're not injecting any sort of conclusion on your own part, any sort of bias or conjecture or opinion. So it can be a little bit alien to what most people are used to when they're writing. Just a little bit different, and it just takes a little bit of practice to get used to. So what governs this really is what's referred to as the neutral point of view. And the idea, you can see the policy page here, and you can see that in a nutshell, its articles must take sides, must not take sides, but should explain the sides fairly and without editorial bias. So when we're talking about where there are no conclusive facts about something or there are differing opinions about how something happened, Wikipedia's job, as it were, is to represent and put forward all kind of accepted opinions about something that exist in the literature, in the body of knowledge. It's a little bit difficult, I suppose, to think about in abstract. So what we're going to do is, as per usual, we're going to look at a live example of that. Levels of obviousness, I suppose, when it comes to neutral point of view. Some of them are really blatantly obvious, in that there's obviously somebody's opinion has been put in there, and that could be useful and kind of used in kind of languages or use of language that kind of places merit or demerits somebody, particularly in the example of a biography. So we're talking about somebody referring to somebody being outstanding, or kind of using emotive or very kind of highly descriptive but emotively descriptive language. So the example that we're going to look at today is Zerka Nigurum. She was a sean-nós singer who died in the 1970s. And on first read, she's also what's referred to as a stub, so she's another very short article. And on first read, the article isn't bad by any sense of stretch of the imagination, but it could do with a little bit of work just to tighten up some of the issues around the tone of the writing. So, on a first read of it, so as is quite normal with a stub article, there is just one reference, one inline reference, and then there is a dictionary of Irish biography to the year 2002, which unfortunately I don't have access to, but I do have access to the Dictionary of Irish Biography, the 2009 edition, so I do have a source for the biographical information that we're going to add here. So she's a stub, so there's no sections and she has no info box at the moment, but we're just going to work with what's there and just maybe tweak the sentences as they exist. So the lead sentence is absolutely fine. She was a teacher, writer, and sean-nós singer. It's absolutely fine. It's the next sentence where it starts to the neutrality of the language starts to kind of fall away. So there was nothing out of the ordinary about the O'Gorman family, according to whom and by what standards. I suppose the writer here is probably trying to say that it was a typical Irish family, or an average Irish family, but really what that lends itself to the article is probably debatable. So I'm just going to actually just remove it. It says at the moment we don't have any information about her parents, other that she had 10 siblings. So if we go to, so here's my entry for, it's actually, the main entry is for her sister, who also has a stub article, so possibly more work for somebody to do if they're interested in this area of knowledge. So the main article is about Moira, her sister, of which then Zerka is part of it, so she's kind of like a sub-entry within it, but still a very good source of information. The DIB do this quite a lot, especially if kind of one sibling or one partner or one member of family is better known, the son or the father, or that kind of thing, that they'll nest other entries underneath them. So at the moment it doesn't say anything about her parents, so I'm just going to say, I'm going to add it in. So, Zerka. was born on October. And of course, when it's a stub, repeating her date of birth so soon after it's been stated in the opening line is quite common. But now that we're thinking that this article should be expanded a little bit, perhaps add some sections, there's no point. It's perfectly fine to restate it here. So she was born on that date. Her parents were now. I tend to Patrick Nagorum and Catherine Burke, and they were born Roisin Marnock, Carna, County Galway. Was born, we'll say, in. And the convention on Wikipedia is always that CO. You know, for if you're writing about Irish topics, rather than the contraction CO, we spell out county. So we have that. Now we have her parents. I'll just say she was one of 11 children. And the in the family is probably slightly redundant. And we can probably tidy this up a little bit by saying, rather than having she's the youngest as a separate artist, she was the youngest of 11, we'll say their 11 children. Now, so I've added a little bit here. She's particularly well known as a singer. She joined her sister. Now, we appear to have double spacing between. Somebody's an old-fashioned typer. Nothing wrong with double spacing in certain places. Circa was now. Within the body of an article, if you're referring to a person, you always refer to them by their surname. So you're not going to refer to her as Circle, you're going to refer to her as Nigorum throughout the body of the article. So we say Nigorum was particularly well known as a singer. She joined her sister Maura Nigorum in Dublin in 1928 and obtained a teaching post with Conor Gaeilge. She studied at UCG. Ideally, you wouldn't use an acronym without explaining it. So we're going to say university, if we can spell it. This is probably going to, so this will tell me to redirect to NUI Galway more than likely. NUI Galway, there we go. So University College Galway with Thomas O'Malley. An active promoter of Irish, she wrote a column for the Irish Press. That could probably be a link. Yep, newspaper, which she later edited. She recorded her first album, Circa Nigorum, sings traditional Irish songs, issued while visiting her brother in the United States in 1945. That's fine. She moved to England in 1955, apparently disillusioned with the future of the Irish language. She was found dead in her apartment in London and was buried in Carna on the 24th of December 1976. So, on the face of it, not so bad. We could probably add a little bit more information as I have it here. So, now we have a competing spelling of Thomas O'Malley. And what we can do is see if he has a Wikipedia article himself. And see if he's under a different spelling. So it looks as if he's being mentioned in other Wikipedia articles, but he himself doesn't have an article. So I'm going to add him as, I'm going to replace the spelling here. I'm going to add him as a red link, because he's mentioned in the body of other articles. And if we look at this in the DIB QV, he's kind of included in the volume. So he has his own entry in the DIB. So by definition, really, he's probably notable enough to have an article of his own. So what we can do is add a red link. So I'm going to add a link here. And you can see Thomas O'Malley doesn't exist. But we can still add it. And what it means is that it's red and it's highlighting to other people that this article does not exist and that perhaps, in my opinion, and perhaps in the opinion of other editors, it should exist. And what this means is, say tonight, if I was to write an article on Thomas and published it under this exact name, it would automatically link to that article. And articles being linked to from other articles, having those interwiki links that we've been adding, is really important for confirming notability. So confirming that the article that I've just published is has already been integrated into the body of Wikipedia. There are other articles pointing towards it, which means that the topic is probably important. If other articles are mentioning this particular person, probably denotes that they're important enough to have an article of their own. Strangely enough, we don't seem to have linked to the Irish language. So now, more than likely, if you're reading this particular, she's quite a niche topic, I suppose. It's debatable whether or not I should link to the Irish language, because if you're reading about this particular woman, you're probably aware of what the Irish language is. But there are people who are interested in folk singers generally, not specifically, from their own country. International people are interested in them, so they may want to click through to learn a little bit more about Irish. I think there are still a few more things missing. So, importantly, we have confirmation. So at the moment in the article, we have our one citation here, which is to Cumann Meron, which we can double check if that is still working. So it's a dead link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to work from the DIB entry instead. So all of this information at the moment, I'll have a double check. Yes. So, okay, so she wrote under a pseudonym. So we can add that in. She wrote a column for the Irish Press under the name. Ooh. And now that because that sentence has become kind of overlong, I'm going to say she later became just to neaten it up a little bit. Yeah. She also contributed a regular column to the children's page under the pseudonym Niamh Kinore. So, for those of you international listeners, Niamh Kinore is a mythical character. So I'm going to say she had this sentence here. She also wrote a column. Again, I'm paraphrasing. I'm changing. I'm taking the information. I'm putting it in my own words, and sometimes that's more difficult than other times, especially when you're reporting things like somebody was born in X on X date. Rewording things like that can be quite challenging, but you try your best to make sure that you're not just copying and pasting verbatim from the sources that you're working from. So she was, so she wrote a column regularly for the children's page under the name Niamh Kinore. We'll see if that we can actually get that to. And later became editor of the paper. Now, so I'm going to add my citation now. So I have the stable link to, for my own note keeping. We have our stable link to this particular article, and in particular to the subsection on Circa as opposed to on Moira. So all of this information is coming from this source, has been verified by this source. I'm going to say cite. I'm going to say generate. And again, we're going to edit just to make it so. The way that I tend to put it is, so the title, we're going to say, the title is Circa Negorum. And I'm going to say in, because she's, and that little notation, the double single quotes, as it were, should make that italic in Wikisource when the citation is generated. So she's a subsection within her sister's article, and we have a writer. So that's that. Source date is 2009. We'll say apply changes. Now, so you can see that we have Circa Negorum in Negorum Mora, bit more filled out. And that citation, so we removed the citation that's now going to a 404 page, the page is gone, and we've replaced it with a more stable citation. Now, we do have other bits and pieces of information that we can add. Unfortunately, so I found an image. This is from actually the collections of NUI Galway, but it is still in copyright based on when Circa was alive. So it's not an image that we can upload for illustrative purposes. I also discovered that she was the subject of a documentary from 2007 for TG Cahir, the Irish language broadcaster in Ireland. So we can add a little bit of information about that. And we do also have an Irish language biography about her as well. In general, when you're looking at a language Wikipedia, you're going to try, and whatever language it is, be it English, Irish, French, whatever it is, in general, you're going to want to draw from sources within that language. And there's various different reasons for that. It's more likely that the readers are going to want to, if they're verifying a citation, they're going to want to access that information within their own language, as opposed to having to either translate it or not be able to access it at all. But also, especially with, I suppose, Irish language or more minority language content, quite often you don't want to just be continuously translating your content from English or another language into Irish. You actually want to be drawing from the corpus of Irish language resources. That said, it's not entirely frowned upon to use other language citations within other language Wikipedias. So I am going to, I would be quite happy to use this as a citation. You can always, there is Google Translate. If you're in Chrome, it's not obviously fantastic for Irish, but you will get the sense of it. So if somebody was trying to verify the information that I had gathered, more than likely they would be able to ascertain whether or not I was reporting it correctly. I'm not going to pull the wool over their eyes. Next little bit of information I'm going to add now. This, I suppose, when it comes to neutral point of view and sensitivities around personal details, and it is a little bit different for living people versus those who are deceased. But the nature of Circa's death was, I suppose, slightly tragic and mysterious. She appeared to have died in her apartment and lay unfound for a period of time. So some sources say that her date of death is unsure, but you can see anim.ie and a few other sources appear to place it on the 15th of, so now like it's December. So we're going to add that in, stating that, so if we look at the DIB, you can say that this one says the exact date of her death is unknown. So she was found out in her apartment in London. So I'm going to add a new sentence in here. And appeared to have been for a period of time. Some sources state, but we're going to say, how do we phrase this? Some sources do not state an exact date of death, where others give it as 15th of December 1976. So what we can do, so just say she was buried in Carnahan, so we know that for definite. So this bit of information is, all of this is verified by the DIB, and the DIB is the one that states that there isn't an exact date of death. So I'm going to reuse the citation here. I'm going to reuse the DIB. And then after 1976 now, the anim.ie also does say that Carna is her burial place. So I can use it for both of those bits of information. And if we go down the body of the article, you can see, so here it says that she died in London, and that she was buried on Christmas Eve in 1976. So we can add that in. So we can add that here. So I'm going to say cite. I'm going to go back to automatic and I'm going to add in the anim. And anim.ie is nicely formatted, so you get an awful lot of the information first pass. But we're still going to edit it because it doesn't tend to include the author of the entry. So we're going to say, so this has 2 authors. So I'm going to add Dermot first. And here, so when you're adding a citation, you want to add a little bit more information to it, and there's going to be a certain amount of fields that are shown to you at first blush, first pass, and some will be, kind of under this tab here, so more information. So I want to add a second author, so you can see that last name to the surname of the second author. So it is Nivaraku, and I want to add first name as well, so Moira. So anim.ie, I don't think we have a source date, so date that this was published. No, that's fine. So we can say apply changes. So you can see now we have both authors attributed there. So we have both citations. So, I mean, this happens quite an awful lot with historic biographies where the date of birth is contested, so the different sources will state different dates. In general, so say if I was to find some archival information which stated absolutely definitely that she died on the 10th of December, and it was, say, an interview with a close friend, or a note that she had left or something like that, and that was the information source, that's not a suitable source for Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not interested in primary or archival sources, so it's not interested in kind of original research. But here that we have 2 sources who are kind of, anim.ie and Dictionary of Irish Biography are quite well respected sources of information, and they are giving not entirely conflicting pieces of information, but differing pieces of information. So what we've done here in our neutral point of view is taken both of those sources and we're representing both of them, and we're not saying either is correct. If it turned out that the 15th of December seemed to be a little bit of a guess, or perhaps a fact that's not particularly well attributed, in further down the line with further edits, we could say something like, the majority of sources state that her date of death is unknown, but some. So you're kind of lending the due weight to the fact that the vast majority of information sources on Zerga state that it is unknown, and that there's a minority of ones that state this particular date of death, which may have been, I don't know, might have come from a coroner's report or something like that, and has made its way into the literature. Or equally could have been, reported and unverified at the time. Another interesting little bit of information. So what I was going to do is add, I suppose, a little bit of legacy, perhaps, to the article. So to break it up a little bit, I'm going to add a heading. I'm going to just say life, because at the moment we haven't fleshed it out more to have kind of subsections more than that. So there's kind of 2 things about her. I suppose that she's had an impact, a lasting impact, which again demonstrates why she should be on Wikipedia, is that there is an outreach centre in Galway named after her, so Áras Saorcha Ní Guram. So I'm going to add that. So the National University Galway's outreach centre in, I'm pretty sure it's in the Gaeltacht, in I'm going to find it here. Outreach centre, yeah. So outreach centre in, we'll see if we can see which Gaeltacht they're referring to. It's probably in Carna. I'll verify that now. Is named in her honour. Ooh, let's give me bold. We don't want that. I'm going to remove Áras Saorcha Ní Guram, sorry. So we go back here I'm going to add this as a citation. I add a bit of information here. So, cite again, go website. See if Gailport. Excellent. Yes, so you can see third level education at Carna. So the site is in Carna. Got that verified. That's great. And then the second thing I'm going to add is that in 2007, a documentary on, so it's just easier for me to copy it rather than try and type it out, was aired on TG Car, and we're going to put the title in of it. So it was on Lyric Serica, which is in search of Serica. So make sure I get the spelling right. Nope, not Lord, Lurg. And we're going to make that, because it's the title of a piece of work, we're going to make that italic. And again, so this is actually from Trinity. It's an entry in their database on Irish film, and there is a little bit more information about Cirque within this, so we could fill out these. There's a lot more basically that could be added about her. So again, we're going to cite. We have our website. Now, this is interesting. So sometimes, depending on how the web page is encoded, Wikipedia cannot generate a citation for you. So it's saying, sorry, we can't make a citation for you. So I'm going to go to the manual tab. I'm going to go to website. And I'm going to add the URL. Now, we're going to bounce back and forth a little bit. So the title is Lurgan Sarga. Now we don't have, it's not, I suppose, a piece of writing, so we don't have an author. This is, it's an archive entry, so we don't have an author for it. So that's not suitable. So source date, we probably don't have a source date. This is the date it was aired, but that's the actual piece itself. We don't know. Okay, so last updated 13th of August. We'll go with that. So name of the website is Irish and Film TV Research Online. What's that again? Irish Film and TV Research Online. And so the URL is live. Is there another one that we can add to say this Trinity College Library? Say publisher. The publisher of this particular website is Trinity College Dublin. I keep going back to that tab. That's not the one I want. Now, so that's all the fields that I have. So, okay, access date, most important one. So we're going to say 7th of April, today's date, 2020. If I didn't add that in, we'd get a little error asking for it. So there, you can see we've added our citation there. Brilliant. So I'm going to save there. Tidied, added biographical information, removed dead link reference, added detail on legacy. So when I'm saying added detail on legacy, that's the centre that's named after, in fact, that she was the subject of quite an extensive documentary. Legacy is also important in stating why somebody is, important, that they weren't just important within their own day, that they have an effect afterwards. So something being named after them, an award or a place, a building, that kind of thing tends to infer that or confer notability upon somebody. So I'm going to watch this page, and it's not a minor edit because I've added quite a bit. So we're going to say publish changes. And there we go. So I mean, this is a topic we'll probably come back to again. The tone in which you write about different things obviously changes depending on the type of article that you're writing. I know we've, and this is showing my own bias, that we're looking at biographies quite a lot. Um, but if we look at, I'll pick out some other articles to take a look at. Obviously, how you write about something neutrally depends on the topic that you're writing about. So there will be kind of writing conventions for other types of articles that we can take a look at over the coming weeks. I think our next stream will be on Thursday, and I think we'll take a look at the no original research. So what does that actually mean when you're going about writing an article, especially when it's somebody perhaps for whom finding sources is challenging to start with, and see how you can kind of overcome some of the issues around original research and using primary sources, and how perhaps things can be used judiciously without over reliance on them. So until then, I will see you then. See you digitally. Stay safe and take care. Bye now.